Greetings, beautiful earthlings. My name is Star. If you are new here, I don't know how you found me, but I am super grateful to have you. And if you are returning, y'all the real MVP, you already know. So today, my friends, following up that really long video that I did about my favorites and least favorites, I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of a palate cleanser because I know that's not something I generally do on my channel, which is speak so openly and opinionated about tarot decks, right? I'm usually very professional about reviewing them and trying to find the highlights of each deck to talk about, as opposed to kind of bashing tarot decks for funsies, right? So I just wanted to bring you guys back to kind of the reason that we're here, right? And that's about tarot. We're not here for gossip or anything. I'm not here to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth about their favorite tarot decks. That was just my personal opinions because it has been asked of me so very many times, and I could not pass up the opportunity to show you guys that I have opinions. I'm a person. So we're gonna go ahead and do another long video. So if you guys are not the biggest fans of my long videos, maybe come back when you've got time to dedicate to sitting here. But this one is going to be talking about my favorite decks to read intuitively. So I do have them back there. It looks like I've got 6 of them. I was gonna do 5 and I threw in another one as an honorable mention. Okay, so first off, I'm going to talk about what is reading tarot decks intuitively for any beginners that might have stumbled across my channel, this being your first video, and why each of these decks resonates for me to read personally, intuitively. Okay, so this isn't saying that these decks are also going to work for you the same way. These are just my personal decks that I love reading with intuitively from experience. These are all decks I've had for quite a while. I've worked with them all quite a few times, especially in client readings. I do believe all of those have been done for client readings. So that is what we're going to talk about today. I will put timestamps down below for anybody who doesn't want to sit here through the recap of intuitive reading. But this one does come up a lot, especially in tarot groups. So I just wanted to go ahead and kind of throw it all in there in a big old mush. Okay, so really appreciate you guys, those of you that stick around to the end, and I will have kind of an announcement about my 1,000 sub giveaway at the end as well for those of you guys who want to stay. Okay, so first off, what is reading tarot intuitively? We are talking about tarot decks specifically here, not oracle decks. Okay, I do think that I'm gonna have to do a separate video for that one because I don't want to confuse anybody and just throw way too much at you at one time. But with tarot specifically, we know that most tarot decks are based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery currently in this day and age. Most tarot decks that get made now are based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. So for argument's sake, I'm not going to say that the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is an intuitive read for the reason that it's kind of your foundation. It's like the lesson plan when it comes to reading, to me specifically at least. The Rider-Waite-Smith, your Thoth Tarot, your Marseille, I apologize if I'm messing that one up, because those are all such different systems of reading. They are all basically your baseline foundation. I call it your lesson plan, your curriculum when it comes to reading tarot. So that is why I say those decks are not specifically going to be listed in my intuitive reading video, because they are a lesson plan. It's something for you to study, and it's something for you to study for years and years and years. I feel like you can never ever learn all there is to know about one system of reading tarot. In other words, the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Thoth, the Marseille, whatever, Lenormand, there's so many types of tarot reading that exist, right? Okay, so now that that is out of the way, we are going to be talking about tarot decks that are specifically based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. Okay, so for those of you guys who are more experienced and you really like the other systems of reading, we're not going to be talking about that because this is going to be kind of a beginner's video, okay? So for those of you guys who don't know what intuitive reading is when it comes to tarot, this is something that I recommend for I personally don't recommend it for beginners, but I do understand why people do. I recommend it after you've got kind of a base knowledge of tarot. I personally feel like it is more beneficial for someone to learn the foundation of reading before they start adding their intuitive spin on it. However, that being said, I do not think that you shouldn't be bonding with your deck intuitively as a beginner. So those are two separate concepts here. So on the one hand, you've got reading just intuitively. And on the other hand, you've got reading from foundation, okay? And what I mean by that is studying the Rider-Waite-Smith is, I've said this before, it's a college course in and of itself. It takes years and years and years. You will never learn all there is to know about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So I feel like it is so very important for beginners to study the base knowledge of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, of the imagery, of how to read it, of the system of reading, of the keywords, of the concepts, and really, really get a good feel inside and out of reading the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck before you start reading intuitively. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of people have been told when they start reading tarot, bond with it intuitively. That means look at each picture, read the picture as a story. What does the picture mean to you? What memories are that picture bringing up? Things like that. And it's basically putting an emotional bond onto the imagery of your tarot deck. And when you do so, you can read around the picture itself. It's basically like reading a children's picture book without words, which can be done. So just imagine if you were creating a comic book and you don't have the words put together, you do the images on the panels first before you put the words together, right? Kind of the same thing. So with tarot, reading tarot intuitively, it's essentially story building. But the reason I don't personally recommend intuitive reading for beginners is because you are not only story building off of the foundation that you already have, right? I feel like you need your foundation to build your house. So you can't put the walls and the windows and the floors and the carpet and everything until you build the foundation of the house. Otherwise, the whole thing's going to fall into the ground, right? So I feel like after you learn the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, you learn the system of reading, you learn the ins and outs of that deck real good, then you can start learning how to story build on top of that knowledge. And the reason that I feel it is so imperative to learn the foundation first is because I said this in quite a few videos before, that the lesson plan when it comes to reading tarot is the building blocks, the springboard, if you will, for your intuition. So you can't spring off of a springboard that isn't there. Okay, so that's kind of my stance on intuitive reading. But the concept itself of reading tarot intuitively is such that you are story building with the pictures. You are reading what the picture tells you, how it makes you feel. And then if you are super experienced, disclaimer, super experienced with knowing your intuition well, being able to communicate with your guides well, then you can add the added spin on top of all of that. So on top of your springboard, your foundational knowledge, on top of your intuitive feelings about the cards, then you add the added cherry on top of the mixture of the communication with the higher realms when reading tarot. That is personally how I read tarot. All of these layers go into it. So again, I apologize if I'm losing any beginners here. I'm really trying not to throw too much at you guys. So go ahead and take a deep breath if that was a lot. Okay, so to recap everything that I just said in kind of a more condensed version, reading tarot intuitively is multi-layered. It takes a lot of bonding time. It takes a lot of previous studying, but it takes a lot. before you can trust your intuition and you can trust the voices of your guides as well as the voice of your higher self to throw these things in the mix. Okay, so if you are a person that does not know your intuition, you do not know your voice, your inner voice, your higher voice, your guides, things like that, and you are just trying to use the imagery of the tarot as a springboard before you learn all of that higher knowledge stuff, okay, outer realm stuff. Take that all out of the picture for a minute. Let's talk about just using the pictures. So I do have a video that I made previous to this about like storytelling with the tarot, right? How you can make your stories with the images. I will link that video down below. It's still a really great video. I do watch it from time to time to make sure that I still agree with what I said, and I do really still like that video. So if you feel like you need a little bit more explanation about reading cards in relation to other cards in the spread intuitively, check out that video, okay? So what we're going to be talking about here, after all of that, after all of that information dump, I felt that was really important to say, so I hope that that wasn't too much. But after all of that information dump, the decks that I'm going to be talking about today are decks that I feel I read more intuitively than foundationally. So what I mean by that is there are tarot decks that I read very foundationally, such as the Rider-Waite-Smith, the decks that are adjacent to the Rider-Waite-Smith, as close as you can get to them, which would be like the Modern Witch and the Llewellyns. Those decks I do read very foundationally because they are very foundational image. So I am essentially reading it like a textbook. I call the Rider-Waite-Smith deck kind of my lazy deck. Like when I want a reading, I want messages from my guides, I want a quick message for a friend or whatever, but I don't want to channel and tap in and you know, channel the energy and channel the guides and things like that. And I just want something textbook. That's what I use the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Modern Witch, and the Llewellyns for. Now, there are decks that we are about to see, which I lean more toward reading intuitively. So what I mean by that is, yes, my base knowledge is still there in my brain because I did, you know, years of studying. So that base knowledge is still there. And my you know, being tapped in, my hearing, that's still there. But these decks have such rich imagery that my guides really love to utilize them for story building. Okay, so the first one I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get it out of the way because I did a lot of talking about this deck. I do a lot of talking about this deck, and everybody does a lot of talking about this deck. It is such a revolutionary deck. You guys did hear me kind of say some less than favorable things about it, but there are reasons that I do love this deck, and that is your Light Seers. So the reason that I love the Light Seers is because this imagery runs away with me. Look at that. Wow. Compared to your Rider-Waite-Smith Justice card, I'll pop that in here because I don't have a Rider-Waite-Smith on me at the moment. But these images, they're so cute. They speak to so many people, right? They're very bohemian, very modern, but just the ridiculous imagery within itself, just this deck alone. So when I read with this deck, these are for people who really need, you know, card by card messages. These are more for card by card messages than foundational messages. Things like this where they'll be like, oh, the chess piece means something, you know, bring up chess, ask them about chess, or, you know, being a mastery of strategy and things like that. And this deck specifically is used for so much of so many little things, just because of how absolutely stunning it is. Okay, so it's just so different. It does speak to a different kind of person. And like this Judgment card has time and time again been my higher self card. It also means within my own readings specifically. I'm not saying this is how you're supposed to read it, but within my own reading specifically, my guides like to use this card as connecting with your higher self and transmuting messages and, even mediumship at sometimes. This is a very psychic card, but this card specifically is the Judgment card. So, it can talk about awakening and things like that and, callings, and it can add to the messages of this deck, but I know in my heart that this card specifically is like a higher self card when I read this deck. And a lot of readers have decks like that where there are just very specific messages for each of those cards just because of the way that you bond with that deck. So this is why I tell you guys it is so very important to spend oodles of time bonding with your deck. I don't mean sit here and shuffle it for a week and you're bonded. No, I mean card by card. Look at that card. Really look at that card. Put your emotion into that card. Put your memories into that card. What does this card evoke for you in your heart as a reader, outside of a reading? Don't bond with your cards in a reading. That's not right. To me, personally, I feel like you should be bonding with each card personally, outside of readings, so that you can sit here and really look at it, really feel it, really put your energy and your emotion and your memories and all of these things inside of that card for your guides to work with when you are reading, so that they know that's how you feel about that card. That's what that card means to you. That's what that card evokes in you. So when they're trying to also evoke that emotion and that type of memory for a message within a reading, they will pull that card. So let's go ahead and take a look at another one. I just wanted to get the light seers out of the way because I feel like it is the easiest deck for anyone to pick up and start learning to read intuitively. It just is. It's so good. It's so good. And there's just so many things in this deck that you can't get with a normal Rider-Waite-Smith. So again, I am going to reiterate the fact that these decks we're going to be looking at are packed imagery, okay? Very packed, full of action cards, full of crazy imagery that's just supposed to evoke something very personal for a reason. And that is going to help boost your intuitive reading tenfold. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the next one. Okay, so I wasn't going to do this one second, but I feel like it kind of works with the introduction of the light seers. So for those of you guys who are beginners, this one is also a fantastic starting point for intuitive reading. The name is literally the True Heart Intuitive Tarot. So she's a beauty. There's your back if you haven't seen it. These cards are just incredible. And I absolutely love spending time with this deck. This is my favorite card in this deck. I put it here on purpose to show you guys. And I cannot get enough of spending time with this deck. It's just so beautiful. The energy it gives is so beautiful. And again, there are so many little I spy type of things in the imagery that my guides just love. They love it. They go crazy for this deck. If I wasn't afraid of messing up the deck for the cardstock, I would use this deck so much because this is a fantastic deck to use for reading intuitively. And if you are a beginner, I say this time and time again, this book that comes with this deck, you could literally never have touched a tarot deck a day in your life, pick up this deck and become a tarot reader. So I hope that one is helpful for anybody looking for a real easy one, if the light seers doesn't quite resonate with you. Now we're going to move on to more off-the-wall decks, okay? Okay, so you guys did see this one in my personal favorites video. Again, I have been bonding with it lately because I was talking about it and I just it made my heart sing to talk about it. So I had to start bonding with it and playing with it and reading with it. And I did actually put it back in order last night because I was going to do a walkthrough video for you guys just because I realized there isn't one on my channel yet. We're talking about the Deviant Moon Tarot. And the reason that I love this deck is because this imagery is so dark. So dark. So if you're the type of person where you're looking at the light seers and the true heart and you're like, I see why you recommended that to beginners, but I don't vibe with it, honey baby sweetie. I love this deck. It's so dark. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, look at your death card. So weird. And I love it. And I know a lot of people are very, very, very iffy about this one, and that's okay. I personally love it just because I have done so many intuitive reads with this deck for friends and for myself, and it's kind of nasty, but again, it's so many little things, so many little I spies that they put in that deck that my guides love using as very, very specific, pinpoint little messages. Like my friends already know I'm a reader. I've already done readings for most of my friends, and they kind of know how I read. But for people who like don't know how I read and they get a reading from me and then there's some real specific little thing about a crow or something that came off of that card and it blows their mind, right? That is just something that, again, you really need that bond with your deck and that bond with your guides to be able to have that type of added pizzazz in your reading. Okay, so let me go ahead and grab the other one because I could just talk about this one forever. It's so cute. So again, if you guys are brand new to my channel, reviews exist for all of these decks already. Okay, so you guys can go check those out so that I'm not talking too much. Okay, here is another one that my guides love, love, love using. I would go so far as to say this could be a deity identifier deck because of the very specific imagery. So I'm talking here, I want to say this is the Universal Celtic, something like that. I've been calling it the Celtic Tarot. I think there's a different name for it. I want to say the Universal Celtic. I could be wrong. But it is a low Scarabeo deck. It's very specific. This is Norse imagery, right? Norse, Celtic. There's a lot of imagery in here. I would go so far as to say there's even a Morrigan card in here. I don't know very specifically, but this deck comes out a lot for readings, a lot for YouTube readings, because there is such a movement right now of the Norse pantheon, of the collecting of warriors for the Norse pantheon, if you will. And this deck just speaks to so many people. My guides just love, love, love it, especially for people who are really nature focused. They will pair this deck with the Messenger Oracle for people who are very nature-driven people. But look at that. There's dragons in this deck. There's things like goblins and fairies and all types of stuff in this deck. So this one, again, is very, very, very specific. But the imagery is, I mean, you could sit here for a long time looking at all of the little things that are hidden in each card. A lot of these cards have runes on them. Thank you for pulling that one out. I don't know if you guys can see it, but like all of the sticks on here have little, these are like divination sticks. They all have little like runes on them. Tons and tons and tons of these cards have just runes hidden throughout the whole thing. And it's very, very special. I will say there's a very special type of energy with this deck. I really love reading with this deck. I really love when my guides tell me to pull this deck out. I don't read for myself specifically with this deck because it does come out so much in public readings. So I don't want to muck it up just because my guides love it. This deck takes me away. Like, I am literally thrown into a completely different world when I read with this deck. So if you guys are drawn at all to Celtic, Norse imagery, things like that, you'll love this deck. Okay, so the last two that I'm gonna do here are Liminal 11 decks, and I'm always a little bit weary to throw Liminal 11 decks in the mix of my videos because I don't want anyone thinking like I'm doing it because they send me decks and I have to talk them up, because I don't at all. There is literally no, I tell you guys this all the time, I don't get paid for Liminal 11 stuff. They just send me decks to review, and you know, it just kind of is what it is. They want me to tell you guys genuinely what I feel about these decks. So when I bring Liminal 11 decks into videos like this, sometimes I will do it with the Modern Witch, because The Modern Witch is just so universal. So many people can pick that up and start reading with it. I love it. I recommend it all the time, genuinely. And these ones are also ones that I have been reading with intuitively for quite a while. So this one specifically, I've made quite a few videos on my channel, quite a few videos about on my channel, and this is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. I love this deck so very much. It's such an immense energy, but still very beautiful, very kind, very lovely, the only way I can explain it is colorful, like the imagery. But I made a video at one point in time about my bond with the Cosmic Slumber Tarot, because this is such a special deck. This deck really does channel only higher vibrational people for me personally. So when when my guides want this deck in a reading, I know it's a high vibrational energy we are dealing with. These people are very tapped into, their source energy. And this deck just does extraordinary readings. And again, this is a deck that I do read highly intuitively. Most of these cards that come out for them are for a specific reason, be it the colors, be it the imagery, be it the very specific messages that come with the cards. My guides love using the book with this one, as well as the White Newman. They love the little messages that go in there, and a lot of those messages are very specifically tailored to the people that I'm reading for, and all the time it just kind of blows their mind where they're like, I can't believe you just said that. That's very specific, and that really XYZ. And it's always the Cosmic Slumber and the White Newman that really get those very specific reactions like that. But the next one that I'm going to talk about is not the White Newman, to my surprise. I really love the White Newman, but I don't read the imagery very intuitively. Again, it reads for me personally, so that deck is a little bit harder for me to read intuitively because I haven't experienced it in public readings, in friend readings, any of that. My White Newman is very specifically a deity deck, and it only reads for me. And most readers will know it's a lot harder to do readings for yourself than it is to read for others. For some reason, that psychic sense is just blocked when it comes to you. So that's the only reason that the White Newman's not in this whole category here. I love her dearly, but I just wish I could experience that White Newman in other people's readings so that I had more of a feel of the energy of it. But I told you guys before, I had a deity that took that deck. She was like, I love it, it's mine, we're gonna read with this now. So let me go ahead and grab this last one here. Okay, so much like the Universal Celtic Tarot, I think it's called, this deck again is very specific. It has a lot of imagery of gods and goddesses, and if you guys have been longtime viewers, I'm sure you can discern what I'm talking about with a Liminal 11 deck that has lots of gods and goddesses in it. We are talking about the New Chapter Tarot. This deck is so fantastic, and holy cow, I love reading with this deck. It's just, I don't want to be cheesy and say otherworldly, but it's very immense. The energy I personally get from it is very immense, very specific. You see, you've got animals and stuff in there too. There are a lot of hidden symbols in here. I have noticed this is much like the Thoth or the Hermetic Tarot, where it does have a lot of the zodiac and astrological symbols in the imagery as well. So sometimes that will help propel a reading. I didn't have to do much bonding with this deck. It pretty much took me and ran with me the second I read with it. I know quite a few of you guys have talked about the New Chapter. Quite a few of you guys love the New Chapter. It's real. It's something. That's all I can say about the New Chapter. It's something. It's a lot to read with. I haven't quite got a handle on the energy of what it comes out for yet, but it sure do. And when it comes out, it sure do. It shows up to the reading. And I can't say that for a lot of my decks. Okay, a lot of my decks are very I did say this in my last video where I feel like a lot of my decks absorb my energy and give it right back to me, and it's kind of just like me telling myself the messages. But when a deck has its own energy and really shows up to the reading and really takes me away with it, I love it. I love it. I love it, because I'm so used to the feel of most of my decks that when I get a deck that just takes me away, I don't know how to explain it any other way in psychic terms and layman's terms. I don't know how to explain it. It literally takes me away. Like, this is one of those decks that I will do medium readings with, because I get lost when I'm channeling within this deck. I'm trying to think, the only other deck I would do medium readings with might be like the Deviant Moon, maybe the Lightseers. I've done a couple medium readings with Lightseers, but these are decks where the energy, the imagery is so immense that my guides are like, okay, take a back seat. Take a back seat, get in the trunk. I don't care where you are, you can supervise, but we're taking this reading. And again, that's not to say that that's how you should be reading with these decks. That's not to say that if you don't get that energy, you're not doing it right. I want to make that very, very, very clear, because a lot of times I will say something like that and a lot of people will come to me and say, I don't get that from the same deck. Why? What am I doing wrong? And everybody reads differently. Okay, it's very, very important to understand that. Everybody reads differently, especially when it comes to intuitive reading. So I have said this on quite a few beginner videos where I don't like that people say pick the deck that calls to you when you're a beginner, because as a beginner, again, I feel like you should be learning the foundation first, but it always helps to have an intuitive deck and a foundational deck on hand at the same time as a beginner. So, you know, all of that out of the way, I just wanted to kind of do this video to show you guys that when people say pick the deck that calls to you, that means when you're looking through the imagery, what do you feel? Okay, that's very much what intuitive reading is. What do you feel? And what is your heart telling you? What is your gut telling you? How are your... For lack of a better word, what are your chakras doing while you read this deck, while you read with this deck? What are your chakras doing? What are your psychic senses doing? That's kind of the only way that I can explain it. So when I'm reading with the deck intuitively, my psychic senses just go nuts. My guides will oftentimes just take over the reading, and it very much turns into a medium reading. Again, I know not all tarot readers are mediums. I know not all tarot readers are psychics, and a lot of people that are just picking up tarot decks for the first time are not in touch with their psychic abilities, are not in touch with their intuition, and they're just trying to learn first. And that's 10,000% okay, because as tapped in as I was to my psychic senses 4 or 5 years ago when I picked up tarot, I would have never known how to integrate it, because I was so overwhelmed with learning the tarot. And any of you guys who are just starting the tarot, you're gonna know that. You're gonna be real overwhelmed. It's 78 cards with upright and reversed meanings. They each have like divinatory meanings. They each have essentially advice meanings, love meanings. Each of those cards can be read differently within the energy of the reading, within the intention of the reading. So it's so very important. I cannot stress it enough how important it is to get a real good foundational system going of reading tarot before you start trying to integrate reading intuitively and getting in touch with your higher self and your guides and things like that, because all of those concepts separately are very advanced things to do. Okay, getting in touch with your intuition all on its own is a huge task. Does take years if you're not someone who is tuned into yourself psychically, if you're not tuned into yourself spiritually and physically, if you're not on your healing journey already, things like that. It's gonna be real hard for you to discern your own voice, your own intuition, your higher self, things like that. I have said this before, I can't even remember what video anymore, but please take your time. Please be kind with yourself when learning tarot. Please do not rush the process of learning tarot, because if you're really serious about learning tarot, you really want to do it for realsies, it's going to be a lifelong journey. You're going to be in it for years and years and years. You're not going to be a tarot reader next week. You're not going to be charging people by the end of next month. It doesn't work that way, and it shouldn't work that way. Please do not pick up an oracle deck and start charging people for readings because you have an oracle deck and a book. That's not how that works, and it gives tarot readers a real bad name when beginners start doing that. When you charge for readings, it means you are 1,000% confident in your knowledge, your full understanding of the tarot, of the foundation of tarot, of the reading system of tarot. You're very in touch with your intuition and even your guides, if you want to go so far as to start that journey, right? I just had to throw that in there because I know some people are going to watch this video and never watch another video on my channel. That's fine. But the discussion of reading tarot intuitively is always a big one. It's always present. It's always, always, always going to come back around. So when you learn to read tarot, you learn to read it well, and you learn to read it intuitively, and you start throwing your own psychic senses into the mix, 5-10 years down your journey. Please share the love, and don't be so quick to dismiss beginners when they ask you questions, because we have all been there. We all had to start somewhere. I love thinking about the psychic journey, even just the healing journey, as like working out in a gym. A lot of people are really hard on beginners in the gym because beginners will ask them questions. Hey, what's this machine? How do you use this machine? What does this machine work out? And a lot of people get real mad, like, why are you here if you don't know what you're doing? And that's not cool. Everyone had to start somewhere, because one day you walked into the gym and you didn't know what any of those tools were either. So that's my little piece of advice for anybody who's made it this far in the video. Please share the love. Please don't ever hesitate to ask questions, my friends, if you guys have made it this far in the video and you still have questions about reading tarot intuitively. Maybe I threw way too much at you and you're just a little overwhelmed and you need clarification. That's fine. You can always ask questions in the comments. I will do my best to get back to you in comment form. And if it's something I feel like needs more explaining, more walking through, I will try my very best to get a video out to you. All of this being said, I do want to say reading oracle intuitively is a little bit different. Because the system of reading oracle is a little bit different, so I will do a separate video on that one for you guys, for anyone who is wondering, okay? And I think that's all I got for you guys today. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that if you made it to the end, you leave me a like. That helps me out so very much, so that this video reaches more people who need it, and it's a free way to support my channel. And I do want to talk to you guys about my 1,000 sub giveaway really quickly. I have started making the tarot bags, so if you guys are not following me on TikTok, I did make a TikTok about the process of like cutting up the tapestry, making the tarot bags and everything. I'm very excited. I've ordered a whole lot of freebies for my shop because I'm starting to get a lot of orders and it's really hard to keep up with making freebies. So I'm just going to make a big old freebie mix, and that means everybody who gets a tarot bag is going to be getting something from the freebie mix as well. So I'm very excited about that. I really hope you guys stick around for the 1,000 sub giveaway. It will be coming up soon. I've already made the listing on my Etsy. I've already worked out how all of it's going to work, and I've already got the freebies on the way, coming in the next couple of days. The only thing I have left to do is just sew 45 damn tarot bags. So definitely, if you guys don't already, subscribe, hit your post notifications, make sure you have all notifications turned on so that you see when I post a new video, so that you guys can keep up with that. And you can also keep up with me across my socials. My link tree is in the description box below, and I've said this quite a few times. The best place to keep up with me is on Instagram. If you guys ever want to talk to me, you can do that through Instagram. TikTok is just kind of for funsies, and Facebook is where you can book a reading if you guys ever choose to do so. I love doing my readings through Facebook Messenger. It's just real easy. And Twitter's just updates on videos that get posted. So if you're a Twitter person, you can go over there too. But I do really appreciate everyone who is here. I do really appreciate all of my new subscribers because my sub count is climbing substantially, and I'm so very grateful to have you guys with me always. So I really hope that wherever you are, when this video reaches you, my friends, you have a beautiful, wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Namaste.